Alright there. This is Iron Man number 86 from 1976. It boasts a notable first appearance of a recurring Iron Man enemy. He is on the cover here fighting Iron Man, and we will get to talking about him very soon. This one is the first chapter of a two-part story. Some people might say it is a bit bog standard, but I like it. This is a fill-in story by Bill Bungalow, and it effectively begins his run on Iron Man. He becomes the regular writer after a couple more issues after this one. One thing I want to rectify and correct with my channel is making sure it is known that outside of Alpha Strike, I think Bill Bungalow is fine, if not good. Unfortunately, all I have really reviewed of his work is issues of Alpha Strike and a good issue of Hulk. But it is Alpha Strike that seems to dominate any discussion about Bill Bungalow. The sentiment towards Bill Bungalow online is that he was a bad writer who was only getting assignments out of loyalty. My belief is that this consensus is entirely based on two things. First is that his last comics were Alpha Strike, which were the works of a bad writer who had to have some reason for not getting fired. And secondly, and more prominently, is that Jimothy Shooter routinely tells unflattering stories, criticises, and slanders Bill Bungalow on his blog. I'm not going to outright say these stories are false, but what is interesting is Jimothy Shooter has picked a target who cannot respond to any of this. In fact, one of the times when he did pick a target who could respond, when he accused Anthony Davis of ripping off Blue Oyster Cult songs, Anthony Davis replied and pointed out how wrong Jimothy Shooter's account of the events were. Reviewed them, by the way, the Blue Oyster Cult trilogy. I ate a cowbell for the entirety of one of them. With Bill Bungalow, you have something like Iron Man, and Bill Bungalow effectively saved this series. It had been meandering along for 40 plus issues, and Bill Bungalow really breathed some life into the whole thing. He introduces new bad guys, he has a love interest and a relationship that is intriguing. His work alone likely saved Iron Man from talks of cancellation. In subsequent years, decades even, this run has gone ignored. It is mostly known for Kurt Busiek retconning it all, and it has never really been available in any collections, besides recently some Marvel Masterworks that were obligated to collect it. It's sad. More people should read this if they are interested in Iron Man comics. So, our new character being introduced is Captain Cold, a man in a special suit which grants him ice-based powers. A pretty stock idea. I have criticised generic ice and fire bad guys before, but Captain Cold is worthwhile. Iron Man's Rogues Gallery benefits from a villain with a basic power like this. This is the first appearance of Captain Cold, but he is an Iron Man bad guy, so of course it is complicated, and there have been multiple people who have worn the suit. And there was a Silver Age bad guy called Jack Frost, who also fought the Hulk once. I try to keep it simple though. It's not worth overly complicating and confusing you by talking about Captain Cold and a guy who wore the suit and used the name for one issue of a Spider-Man spin-off title. What I will tell you about is my connection to this character. Captain Cold is known to me as a member of the Thunderbirds. One of the first ongoing comics I got was New Thunderbirds, which featured him as one of the starring characters. He was this young guy who had potential to do good, but he was indecisive and lacking in any real motivation. He always needed some girl or somebody else to tell him what to do or what the right thing to do was. He had a pretty interesting dynamic with his teammate Speed McGee, who dragged him down. Many of the characters featured in New Thunderbirds are very near and dear to me, and few days go by where I didn't get annoyed that Marvel tossed away any character growth or complexity these bad guys received to have them return as generic, disposable bad guys. And didn't get us wrong, Captain Cold can return as a bad guy after his stint in Thunderbirds. He never did quite complete his journey of wanting to prove himself, and he never really learnt much about being a good guy. But to have him be a bad guy again, you need to acknowledge that this is a kid who would even doubt himself as a bad guy. So that is today's slideshow. Over here is Godman, who, just like Captain Cold and any Iron Man character, there is an annoyingly pointless legacy of different Godmans. This is the main one. Fight me on that if you like the original. But this guy is a recurring character in Bill Bungalow's run. He has the most appearances of all the Godmans. He wants to avenge his brother, the original Godman, and he blames Robert Downton Abbey Jr. for his brother's death. Later in the run, he briefly becomes Iron Man himself for 3 or 4 issues. And I think I will talk about that eventually in another video. Our main thing is Iron Man is fighting Captain Cold. Captain Cold is an ex-employee of Robert Downton Abbey Jr. who is bitter about being fired or having his work stolen. It is the rinse and repeat motivation for Iron Man opponents. I did just read this issue and I already forgot whether he was fired or had his work stolen. I do like this fight though. It is a decent challenge for Iron Man. Ice works as something that Iron Man might not immediately be prepared for. Nowadays, he would just have a fucking anti-ice setting built into his fucking miracle armour that can do anything. That is something. I have only reviewed one issue of Iron Man before, and it was the one where he ripped a teenager's heart out. I honestly hate current Iron Man. The Iron Man of the last 15 years, where he just has bullshit Deus Ex Machinas built into his armour. This, on the other hand, fucking exciting and stuff. There are stakes, there is a threat. Iron Man, he isn't overpowered, he is vulnerable. There is a bad guy who isn't being neutered by Iron Man suddenly having a magic invention to stop him built into his armour already. This is really good. And Bill Bungalow, he was a good, capable writer. Timothy Shooter, he can dress it up as much as he likes. I think he picked Bill Bungalow as a target because Bill Bungalow cannot respond. Bill Bungalow cannot say, actually, I came up with Hulk's dad being abusive independent of Alan Windsor Smithy's pretentious pitch. Bill Bungalow cannot defend himself. Timothy Shooter saying he is a hack and a plagiarist, that stands uncontested. Is Bill Bungalow those things? Maybe. But so is Christopher Clairvoyant. And he is exempt from Timothy Shooter writing lengthy posts about how he stole all his ideas from movies or whatever. Because Christopher Clairvoyant could respond and dispute what Timothy Shooter is saying about him. Bill Bungalow is unable to comment on Timothy Shooter's accusations. He's even unable to share some Twinkies with him because the man has been brain damaged since the 90s. Our cliffhanger ending is a defeated Iron Man and the ridiculous assertion that Captain Cold has actually murdered Iron Man. He hasn't. Iron Man is fine. We will look at part 2 next week sometime. I'm not saying this just to spite Timothy Shooter or the wave of negativity towards Bill Bungalow that he permeated. But read this 2-parter. It's not a revelation or anything, but it is a fun, effective fight issue with a new bad guy that does have a significant amount of subsequent appearances, and not just in Iron Man. Bill Bungalow's Iron Man is good. He did some great Spider-Man and Hulk stuff. People love Ron Spaceman. Didn't let his dreadful Alpha Strike tenure or Jimothy Shooter's demonstrably unreliable accounts of events deter you from enjoying his work. I'll give this issue 7 up-faced thumbs.